Welcome to today's video where we look at one of the more interesting heavy tanks that we have at tier 8, and that's because this tank is not a heavy tank, although it kind of is, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to get into all of it. It is the Chimera, which is technically a medium, but the whole point is that this tank very much feels like that heavy tank playstyle, and we're going to get kind of find out why in this gameplay. But first things first, what is this tank all about? Well, the Chimera is a medium that has 440 alpha damage. It gets a pretty good turret for a medium, and it is also relatively fast, so it kind of rolls into that medium heavy playstyle, and when you can use it correctly, flicking onto people for 500 damage, it's pretty good. But this tank, what you have to do is make sure that you can find yourself in positions where you can trade with heavy tanks, and that might seem very silly, but trust me, when you get this thing in the right situation and when you can find other heavy tanks, you can end up bouncing a lot around, you can end up dealing a lot of damage using the DPM and also the alpha damage to outtrade, because effectively you can pull up around to fight a tank like an IS-3, for example, deal more damage on average than an IS-3, and then you can leave again. Or alternatively, you can rock up with the decent mobility to find side shots onto a lot of people as well. So this game ends up being a pretty decent one. The Chimera doesn't have the best accuracy, as you can probably expect, with it being a tank with 440 alpha, but what it does get is that speed to make up for the fact where you can kind of surprise people and get that extra bit of damage. Now, with Bendy Kenobi out of the way, we're now able to kind of push this side. Now, the enemy team have done the typical you never want to do, which is expose one entire flank to the enemy team and no one going on the heavy corner, which, let me just tell you, never actually works. But what we've done is kind of pushed through here and secured it at the beginning of the game, which has basically secured us a win. I won't lie, if you get to this spot, you're going to end up winning the game regardless. Now, unfortunately, we don't manage to get a shot on the Ariete. He actually goes behind a rock. I thought that would be the case, but you never know. Sometimes it's worth firing. But at this point, it's how can we kind of get a little bit more damage, and we're also going to see how this tank can fare up against some of the heavy tanks as the game progresses. Now, here is one of them, the AMX-65T, in fact, a video that I'll be doing soon on the channel, and that's going to be an interesting one for sure, since that tank is designated as an absolutely terrible vehicle. But I'm going to try and explain why the tank is actually not too bad if you know what you're doing with kind of those lightly armoured medium/heavies that can kind of work if you use them in the right way. Much like this tank, you know, they don't have the most armour, but if you can find positions where you can get damage like you're seeing here and use the turret armour and stuff like that, then you can pull off world beater games and hopefully win your own games. And now our team have somehow managed to throw themselves away against an opposing force that are particularly not amazing. Now, are we going to win it? It seems like we still are, but I don't get why people still sat in this base. I mean, yes, there's some people in front, but it's at this point I'd be thinking, maybe I can use that like 2/3 of the map that the enemy team aren't in to find a better position to take out some of these guys rather than sitting in front of them. Now, we take a little bit of a risky position here, and of course go down to try and get this damage on the MX-65T, and oh lord, uh-oh. That French heavy, doesn't look like he's going to be having too much fun. We plough a few rounds into him, dealing 3,400 nearly, and of course taking out 2 of the enemy team. But there's still a few left alive, and because we're the furthest forward, we can take advantage of this pretty much steamroll game, where we've essentially just gone straight through the opponents, and maybe we can pick up an extra bit of damage where the base campers at the very back are just not going to be able to do any. So we push up, there is a bar behind me, I'm waiting here, might as well try and get a shot on this pattern. We do, but only tracks him, no point in staying because he's probably going to be taken out anyway, and then it's time to push. There's an M56 Scorpion, of course the tier 7 American here, who, I mean, he's gone too, and now there is a Lerva last alive, still in the base, don't know why he was there. But maybe we can farm up a little bit of his hit points. He is on full hit points, which is what you want. We are loading AP in this tank. It doesn't have the best penetration on its standard rounds, but it's more than enough for the Lerva's back end. But, you know, coming up against the front can be a little bit difficult. Got to aim for the lower plate if possible, but don't worry because we can get around the side using the mobility and it's going to be fine. The Lerva is just... Brain, I think, is out of action right now, and yeah, there we go. Easy, easy, easy. Can we get the final hit? Yes, we can. 4,460 damage is the final total in this game, with a little bit of assistance as well. And that kind of sums up what this tank is all about. It's quick to get into action, got a lot of alpha, and can deal a ton of damage as well. But let's jump into the next one after we see the results here, and of course see whether this tank can continue its kind of wrathful state, maybe in not such a great matchup. And of course I want to show off some of the worst games that we have to really give a good analysis of something like the Chimera in the future as well. So we're going to be seeing all kinds of games in the upcoming reviews and stuff like that. And so the next game that we have is on Canals. Canals being a map that is predominantly good for medium tanks and tanks with a decent amount of speed, as well as being pretty solid for heavies as well. So that works very well with this sort of tank, so I'm expecting, you know what, we might have a very good idea, or at least a very good start to the game, and hopefully we can secure some more damage in the later half. Now, let's just say my assumption doesn't end up necessarily too well, but we'll continue and we'll see how it does actually last. Now, at the beginning of Canals, I always like to come to this corner here. You can usually get side shots on, LTTBs that like flying sideways through the air. Now, we deal one shot into him, which is nice, and can we get this final one? I'm just aiming here. Can we get one? He's reversing, then, oh, damn it. I hit the upper plate at the most ridiculous angle you could probably hit it at rather than the side of him. Yeah, maybe a little bit unlucky, maybe a bit better aim could have potentially been done, but yeah, I'm not going to complain all too much. We try and get one into the UDES, but because the shell velocity of this tank is not particularly amazing, it does take a little bit longer than you'd expect, and you can often end up missing shells. So that's the other thing about the Chimera. Now, with the UDES, who appears to be continuously trying to push, yeah, maybe we can get another one. The LTTB is literally just throwing himself away at this point. You know, he didn't obviously learn from the first time. He basically lost 90% of his health, so I guess we'll just take the other 10%. Either way, not the brilliant start to the game, but we haven't lost any health, which is great, and you should always be trying to avoid taking any shots of damage at the beginning of the game, especially in your kind of mediums and heavy tanks that are kind of like this, and just try and be opportunistic in getting as many shots as possible. Now, sniping with this tank, it is not its best suit. It is not the best at being able to do it, and yeah, it's kind of a little bit annoying. But remember, you can get shots at long range, you just have to give enough lead, and of course you saw there where we had to fire well in advance of when the UDES cross. So easy as you like there. I'm kind of thinking we can push up here. The tank has okay view range, it's actually not awful, which allows you to get a little bit of spotting damage when you do push with this tank, which is nicer than a lot of the other heavies that you'll see in the game. Now, we do find ourselves a tasty snack in the Tiger 1. We launch one straight into him, and nice indeed. Extra spotting damage and also some actual damage as well. So a good combination there. We try and go back. I accidentally crash into the Emil 1. Not ideal, but we are now spotted out in the open, so we hopefully don't want to take any hits, and instead I push backwards, which isn't the worst thing in the world. And I see that the enemy team are pushing the town area, so you want to move back and, you know, re-engage targets where you think it will be useful. There's a KPZ in the middle. This is the KPZ-50T, the German tier 9 medium. So if we can help him out with whatever might be over here, that will be good, and hope that we don't get hit by some horrific TD or something like that. But either way, we push down here. The problem with pushing here, you can get hit from the right, but we knew that there was no one there, so it's fine. We're going to push now this object 430-2, which should be pretty easy, and of course finding him shouldn't be too difficult. The KPZ really getting in the way here. We managed to land one either way, which is good. And then rather than expose ourselves to everyone on the hill to my right, we actually push over here. Now the UDES looks like he's trying to get a shot onto us. Can we get one into him though? Nope, it ends up hitting the area. The KPZ somehow manages to get taken out from full health, and oh yeah, T69 who's also coming down. But don't worry, we have the alpha damage to deal with him, but now we're in a horrible position because we've got people coming from behind, people from in front. The 430-2 is still alive. Hello, anyone want to actually hit him? Any of the boys that are literally sat where they could hit him in the backside? I guess not. And yeah, you have to be very careful with when you push. Obviously I'm triggered because I'm pinging this guy like, hello, why didn't you just turn outside on? And yeah, a little bit disappointing indeed. But that is the Chimera. And although, you know, this tank can be very good, it can also be annoying and frustrating, but when it works, it really does work. And I've had a ton of really good games in this tank that I think most people would love this tank. Because of that high alpha, because of the brawling nature, because the turret's pretty good, and because the upper plate and stuff like that is actually really thin and small, that you can actually bounce a few rounds as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this fairly short, concise video on, of course, the Chimera. So let me know what you think. Do you prefer the smaller versions of these reviews rather than the longer ones? And of course, let me know what tanks you want to see next on the channel, what sort of videos you want to see next, and hopefully we can come to a bit of a agreement and pick out some of the best things that you guys suggest. So I'll be interested to see what you think in the comment section, and of course if you did enjoy it, please do like it. Don't forget there's a gameplay and tank reviews and of course a update news playlist that you can watch all of the latest updates as well as all of the latest gameplays and gameplays covering almost probably every tank in my garage at this point. So hopefully that will be interesting for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.